Okay, so you know that feeling when your mind just won't stop, just spinning and spinning, worrying about things that haven't even happened.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's what we're digging into today. It's something I think pretty much everyone goes through, right? If you've ever been up at night with all the what ifs, well, this one's for you.
Absolutely. We all know that headspace,
Yeah.
anxieties about work or your health, money problems, you name it, it can just kind of take over.
It really can. It's like this background hum that just colors everything.
Mm.
And to really unpack why this happens and maybe what we can do about it, we looked at this transcript. It's from the LEP Learn English podcast. The episode was called Why Do We Worry All the Time?
Right, that podcast, yeah.
Super relatable stuff in there. So our mission today is basically to pull out the key ideas, maybe some practical steps to help us all, understand and maybe manage that constant worry feeling a bit better.
And the hosts in that conversation, they nailed it right away, didn't they? Describing worry like a
Yeah.
like a clingy friend or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a shadow that just follows you around.
Exactly, it just sticks to you.
Right. It's always there whispering about work deadlines or, oh, God, health stuff, your bank account.
Even dating, they mentioned that too.
Yeah. It's exhausting thinking about how much brain space it takes up.
And the big question they were asking and what we're getting into is just why? Why does our brain do that? Jump to the worst case scenario for stuff that, let's be honest, probably won't even happen.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The video brings up Donald Winnicott. He was a British pediatrician psychoanalyst. Heard of him?
Winnicott, yeah. His work on child development, attachment, it's pretty significant. He had some really insightful takes on anxiety.
He did. And he had this saying, and it sounds a bit, well, odd at first. The catastrophe you fear will happen has already happened.
Right.
No, he wasn't saying he could see the future or anything like that.
No, not at all. It wasn't about predicting things. Winnicott's point was more like, well, our worries right now, they're often reactions to stuff that hurt us in the past. Painful things.
Even if we don't consciously remember the specific event.
Exactly. Even if it's buried somewhere. The video called it emotional déjà vu.
Yeah, I liked that. Or the ghost in the basement idea, especially with childhood stuff.
Mm-hmm. Like these old hurts are still kind of echoing now in our current anxieties.
Okay. That makes a weird kind of sense.
And the video gives some good examples, right? Like maybe you have this intense fear of public speaking now.
Right? Yeah.
It could be an echo of a time you felt, really embarrassed or laughed at as a kid.
Right. Or being terrified of being dumb. Maybe that links back to feeling abandoned or alone earlier on.
Precisely. Or constantly worrying about money. Could totally stem from growing up poor, that feeling of never having enough.
Yeah, that scarcity mindset. It sticks.
Or finding it hard to trust people. Maybe that's a shadow from being betrayed before.
Yeah.
It connects,
It really does, but it's weird, isn't it? The video asks why we remember that stuff so clearly, the bad feelings, the embarrassing moments.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't remember, where we put our keys 5 minutes ago. Or that important password.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels unfair, doesn't it? But the key is the emotion. Strong emotions, especially the negative ones, they act like glue for memories.
Ah.
They make the memory trace much stronger, much more vivid than just, neutral information like where your keys are. The emotion anchors it.
So our brains are lugging around this old emotional baggage, and that's messing with how we think about the future. How does that work?
Well, think of it like your brain setting up an early warning system. It learned from those past hurts,
Okay.
and it tries to protect you, tries to flag similar situations before they happen again, so it scans for patterns.
Even if the current situation isn't actually dangerous.
Exactly. Even if there's no real threat now, that old program can just, kick in automatically,
Yeah.
triggering the worry.
So the brain thinks it's helping by ringing the alarm bell, but it's reacting to old news, basically.
Yeah.
Data that's out of date.
Precisely. And, as the video points out, this protective thing, while well-intentioned, can sometimes cause more trouble than it solves, leads to all that excessive worry.
Okay. I'm starting to get the why. But the big one, the video asks, what can we actually do?
Yeah.
How do we start to untangle this?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's important, like they said, to realize we can't just, switch off worry completely. It's human.
Right. It's probably got some purpose.
It does. But the good news is we can learn to manage it better. There are strategies.
Okay. Like what? What's the first step?
Well, one thing they talked about was shifting perspective, specifically being kinder to your past self. That one really hit home for me.
Kinder to your past self. Explain that a bit.
So the idea is to have some compassion, some understanding for what the video called the hurt little kid inside us.
Ah, okay.
Used a great analogy.
Yeah.
If a kid you cared about messed up a test, you wouldn't call him a loser, right?
No, of course not. Comfort them, figure out what went wrong, encourage them.
Exactly. So the idea is try offering that same kindness to yourself, to the you from the past who went through that hurt thing, instead of blaming or shaming that part of you.
Huh. So instead of beating myself up for past mistakes or anxieties.
Yeah, try understanding where it came from, connecting the dots between that past hurt and the anxiety you feel now.
Mm.
That connection itself can actually lessen the emotional punch in the present.
It kind of takes the power out of it a bit.
It can, yeah. It helps you respond with more awareness, less just reacting on autopilot to those old triggers.
Okay. And the video mentioned something about rewriting memories. That sounds intense.
It's a specific technique.
Yeah.
It involves mentally going back to those difficult past moments. But instead of just reliving the pain,
Right.
you actively imagine getting the support or the love or the understanding that you wished you'd had back then.
Oh, interesting. So you imagine someone being there for you or reacting differently.
Kind of, yeah. You imagine the scene unfolding with that missing piece of support in place. It's like giving your past self what was needed.
So you're not changing the facts, but changing the feeling around it.
Exactly. It helps reframe the emotional narrative, see it in a healthier light maybe, offer some healing to that older part of you.
Wow. Okay. Now, the video also brought up upbringing, right? Attachment theory. How does that fit in?
Oh, hugely. Our early relationships, especially with parents or main caregivers, they really lay the groundwork for how we handle stress later.
How so?
Well, attachment theory suggests that if you consistently felt safe, seen, supported as a kid,
Like you had a secure base.
exactly, you tend to develop better coping skills for stress as an adult. You feel more resilient generally.
If you didn't have that, if things were unstable or you didn't feel supported.
Well, then you might develop coping mechanisms that are maybe less helpful as an adult. Things you learn to do as a kid to survive emotionally.
Like what?
The video mentioned things like shutting down emotionally or maybe lashing out, getting angry easily, even using food to cope. These can all be learned responses from way back, reacting to adult stress like a child might.
And that can lead to that learned helplessness thing they talked about.
That can, yeah. Learned helplessness is,
Oh, exactly.
well, it's when someone goes through bad stuff they feel they can't control over and over.
Right.
Eventually, they can start to believe that nothing they do matters, that they're powerless.
Yeah.
So they just stop trying, even when maybe they could change things.
Wow, that sounds incredibly tough to break out of.
It is. It shows how deep these patterns run. But, and this is crucial, the video really stressed that it is possible to change these old habits. It just takes, real effort and time.
Okay, so how do we start making that shift? From those childlike reactions to more adult ones when worry hits.
A big part is just recognizing we have a choice now. As adults, the video used heartbreak as an example, right? A kid might just, throw a tantrum. An adult response is more like taking a breath, feeling the pain, sure, but then choosing how to react next, not just being swept away by the feeling.
And that links to believing you can actually make a difference, right? That internal locus of control idea.
Exactly. An internal locus of control is basically believing that you can influence what happens in your life through your actions, your choices.
So, if you succeed, you think, okay, my hard work paid off.
Right. And if you face a setback, you don't just collapse. You think, okay, what can I learn? What can I do differently next time? It's about feeling empowered, not like a victim of circumstances.
That definitely sounds better. But man, when that anxiety really flares up, feeling empowered is hard. That's where grounding comes in.
Yes. Grounding techniques are super helpful for pulling yourself back when you're getting overwhelmed by those anxious thoughts. They reconnect you to the now.
What are some examples? The video mentioned a couple.
Yeah, simple things like really focusing on your breath, feeling the air go in and out, or physically touching something around you.
A chair or a table.
Yeah, really noticing the texture, the temperature, anything that pulls your attention out of your head and into your physical senses, into the present moment.
So it kind of interrupts that old automatic worry pattern.
Exactly. It gets you off autopilot. And every time you consciously choose a different response, like grounding yourself instead of spiraling,
You're building a new pathway.
you're building a new pathway, strengthening healthier coping mechanisms. It's like retraining your brain one moment at a time.
Okay. Now, something else. A really common reaction to anxiety is just trying to avoid anything risky, right? Like trying to control everything.
Mm, the avoidance tactic.
The video called this the old school way and said it might actually make things worse.
Yeah, that's a key point. Trying to eliminate all risk, all uncertainty. It seems logical if you're anxious, but it's impossible, first of all.
Right. Life's risky.
And second, constantly trying to avoid potential triggers can paradoxically increase your overall anxiety. It feeds the fear.
They mentioned safety behaviors too. What are those about?
Safety behaviors are things we do to try and prevent a feared outcome or just make ourselves feel less anxious right now.
Like avoiding parties if you have social anxiety.
Exactly. Or always checking things multiple times if you worry about making mistakes. They might give you temporary relief,
Ugh.
but they reinforce the underlying fear. You never learn that the party might have been okay, or that checking once was enough. The avoidance proves the fear was justified in your mind.
So instead of trying to dodge all risk.
The idea is to change your relationship with risk, to accept that some uncertainty is just part of life.
That doesn't mean being reckless though, right?
Not at all. It means building confidence that you can handle uncertainties when they do pop up, trusting yourself to cope rather than trying to build a risk-free bubble.
Okay, so managing in the moment, changing our view on risk. But what about digging deeper? Finding the actual roots. The video had suggestions there too, right?
Yeah, self-reflection is huge. They suggested asking yourself some specific questions like, when's the first time I remember feeling this specific anxiety?
Tracing it back.
Or what's the earliest thing I can think of that made me feel this kind of fear? Really trying to pinpoint the origins.
Like being an emotional detective for yourself.
Kind of. And keeping a journal can really help with that. They called it a therapy journal. Just writing down when you feel anxious, what triggered it. You might start seeing patterns, connections to the past.
That makes sense. Writing stuff down helps clarify things.
It really can.
Mm.
And sometimes, it's hard to see these connections on your own.
So if you're stuck.
That's where talking to a professional, like a therapist, could be incredibly helpful. They're trained to help you uncover those maybe unconscious fears or past experiences that are fueling the anxiety now.
Right. And the video came back to healing that past self, didn't it? Mentioned writing a letter.
Yeah, writing a letter to your younger self. It sounds a bit unusual maybe, but it can be really powerful.
How so?
It's a chance to offer that kid version of you, the understanding, the compassion, the reassurance that maybe they didn't get back then. To tell them they're safe now, it's very validating.
And guided meditations too, connecting with your inner child.
Similar idea. Meditation's designed to help you connect with and sort of nurture that younger part of you that might still be holding on to old hurts, offering comfort and safety internally.
Okay. And the last big piece seemed to be about challenging our thoughts directly.
Yes, challenging those negative thought patterns. This is core to things like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. It's called cognitive restructuring.
So noticing the negative thought.
Noticing it, yeah. Becoming aware of those automatic negative thoughts that just pop up and fuel the anxiety. And then consciously, actively working to replace them with more balanced, more realistic, more helpful thoughts.
That sounds like work, like it takes practice.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely takes practice. And often it's something you work on with a therapist. But learning to catch and challenge those thoughts, it can make a massive difference to how you feel, how you act, your overall well-being. Huge impact.
So wrapping this up then, this whole deep dive into worry, it really feels like the big takeaway is a lot of the time that constant chronic anxiety, it's not really about the future hitting us.
Right. It's more about the past echoing unresolved stuff from before.
And understanding that, figuring out the origins, that's like the essential first step to actually changing things.
Exactly. You can't really change a pattern until you understand where it comes from.
And it's definitely not a quick fix, is it? The video really emphasized that healing, growing, it takes time, it takes effort.
For sure. But every little step you take towards understanding yourself, towards trying a new coping skill, it counts. It's valuable.
Yeah, don't get discouraged if it's slow.
Whether it's just noticing your thoughts, trying some grounding, maybe journaling, or even reaching out for help, committing to understanding yourself and managing the worry. That's the real win.
So let's all maybe try to keep working on that. Yeah. Moving away from just being constantly stressed and worried, and towards feeling, I don't know, more resilient, better able to handle whatever life throws at us.
Sounds like a worthy goal.
Thanks for exploring all this today. Maybe, for everyone listening,
Yeah.
think about that ghost in the basement idea. What old stuff might still be influencing your worries today? Could be a powerful place to start reflecting.